Ow, that hurt. Hi, remember me? I've been completely MIA for I think like a month? A good long time. I've been having some health problems that I won't get into, but I've been going through it a little bit. Taking care of my body, so I haven't been able to paint at all, let alone make videos or be on camera or anything like that. But I'm hoping to get back a little bit. I'm hoping I'm on the mend. Before, I was not feeling so great. I painted this and I recorded it. I just have not made the video for it, so here it is. I'm gonna make it a walkthrough, kind of tutorial style, but like not fully. I'm gonna show you what I did and talk through it. Just like a cute pastoral kind of scene. So my sketchbook's actually made for watercolor. It's a watercolor sketchbook by Handbook. I love it. It's great for wet materials like acrylic paint. I started out by sketching kind of out where my stuff's gonna be with that blue colored pencil. And then I mixed up this like very light blue and I'm doing some like very light washes. I've got a lot of water in this paint right now. It's like, I'm almost using it like it's watercolor. And I am just filling it in, kind of creating this gradient, leaving spaces open where the clouds are, just so I can have an idea of where they're gonna go. And then higher up in the sky, it's a little bit of a darker blue, and then I'm moving down, adding more water to my paint to make that kind of gradient. And then I wanted to get a little more opaque, nice and solid, so I mixed up some more color, didn't add as much water, and started filling in that sky. And then slowly I started adding white, and then a little more water, and that's gonna help create that gradient there. And you're gonna notice too, people always ask me like how I keep my pages from bending and getting warped. They do bend and they do warp. I don't know how to make that not happen, but it's totally fine. It's okay for them to bend and warp. It's, you know, this is what a sketchbook is. It can be wrinkly, it can be ugly, it can be messy, it doesn't matter. It's okay, wrinkles are okay. Embrace the wrinkles. This color is it's white, mostly, mixed in with a tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of yellow. It's got like almost like a purpley kind of hint, but it's very, very subtle. I just want to create some layers of color. Now I'm going with mostly white with a tiny bit of yellow in it and an even tinier bit of red. So it's mostly like a yellow creamy kind of white color. And I'm kind of adding that to the bottom of these clouds, making some highlights and making some little wisps come off them. And now I'm deciding I wanted to go for more highlights. So I have mostly white, I think it's like pure white with the tiniest little dab of yellow in it, so it's nice and bright and vibrant. And I'm kind of dabbing that on in highlighted areas, kind of throwing it in wherever I want. These clouds are really all about layers. They're not about blending or anything like that. I'm not doing any blending techniques here. I'm really just layering color on top of each other. Very subtle color differences to make the illusion of some blending in these clouds. Now I'm going with straight white, with a nice little detail brush there, and I'm just kind of detailing where the like extra highlighted parts are. Just building some contrast on this cloud, give them some more dimension. And now I've mixed up this color that is, it looks black, but it's actually blue, red, and yellow, and mixed together, so it just made this dark color. And I'm taking this little liner brush. I have a good amount of water mixed in with this so it flows nicely, and I'm drawing on some branches of these trees. Kind of, I've got a reference photo there you can see in the background. You can also see me watching BuzzFeed Unsolved because I love my Ghoul Boys in the background. I have this idea of what I want with that reference photo, but I'm also kind of doing my own thing. So I have my branches put in there just in a couple places, and now I want to put in a dark color for us to work on top of for these bushes that are there in the background. They're like bushes, trees, they're very dense, so they're very shadowed in the center, and we're going to build on top of this dark color with lighter greens to make it look like there's leaves that are more forward and leaves that are super far back. I also want to have some green color for this what do you call it? Or foreground. But I want it to be dark still because I want to have contrast for me to put highlights on top of. So I'm keeping it kind of dark. It looks a little murky, yeah, whatever. It's totally fine. This is all about building on top. This is all about layering. Now I've got a little grass color here, which is just like mostly yellow, a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, and I've just put that on there. Kind of changing it up a little bit just to give it a little bit of dimension to it. And I love that color. I think it's so pretty. I love grassy greens. I want to get some more of an opaque color going on there, so I'm building up that color on that foreground bush too, a little bit darker, filling that all in. And then I'm going that same like super dark color that I used for the branches of our trees there. I'm filling in some of the extra shadowed parts of our bushes back there. I know they look so dark right now, but what we're doing here, I've got a little filbert brush. I've mixed up a slightly lighter green than what we have, the super dark version. And I'm starting to just dab it on and create the illusion of little leaves on these trees. Just kind of tapping it away. It's got that rounded top, so I can get that kind of curved look. And I'm just kind of spreading it out, having some parts clumped, making sure I'm getting those little treetops there. And just like very slowly, obviously I've had this sped up, so I'm slowly choosing where I want, but also like, you know, doing it kind of loose. I'm just giving the illusion that these are leaves here. They're not actual individual leaves. I went for a little bit of a lighter color. I think I just added a little bit of white and a little more yellow. Did the same method where I started adding highlights. I'm keeping in mind a light source here too. When I'm adding this like light green and these highlights on here, I'm knowing that my light source is coming from the top left. That's usually where I put my light source. I don't know why. I always like having my light source come from the top left. Light source is something that's really important to keep in mind. Now I'm going for an even lighter green. This is mostly white, but with yellow and blue slapped in there. I just want to like really create some contrast in this highlights. And now I've mixed up this brown color. I just did white, yellow, red, and a tiny little bit of blue. And I just want to create a couple little lines with this tiny little detail brush that show that there's some branches right there behind. Just like a little bit lighter so there's some contrast for them in the dark leaves. I also want the tree branches that I had first put on to be a little more accentuated, so I'm taking that dark green and I'm just kind of outlining them a little bit, lining them a little more just so they stand out, and adding a few more here and there just so that it looks nice. Now I'm focusing on the foreground again. I'm deciding I want an even darker texture there. I want to have a lot of darkness to work on top of, so when I add my light colors, it looks like there's shadow behind. I'm going in mixing up a little bit of lighter green and doing that same method with that same filbert brush with the rounded top. I'm just kind of dabbing color on there, keeping my light source in mind, knowing that it's coming from the top left, and just dabbing away, putting my little leaves on there. We are creating the illusion of leaves. These aren't individually painted leaves. They're kind of just like tapped on there. It makes it look like we put a lot of effort into detail when we really didn't. I think this painting took me maybe an hour, and you could spend days and days and days painting each individual tiny little leaf if that's what you wanted to go for detail. But you know, you're kind of just working with color, you want to mess around with your sketchbook, you just want to get a little something on paper and have some fun. Like this illusion of detail technique where you just kind of dab stuff on is going to really be beneficial for you and your art practice. I'm going for even more highlighted. I want lots of contrast there. This is in the foreground. I want it to contrast a lot with that dark trees and bushes in the background, so it's nice and bright. And I got that tiny little detail brush out to create the lightest of the green highlights there. Tiny little details, just a couple of them. It really gives the idea that there's lots of tiny little leaves, when maybe it's only a couple thrown in there. And now I want to add in some tiny little flowers. I am just in little clumps, dabbing a couple little dots and making it look like there's a couple little flowers sitting on that bush, putting them all over wherever I feel like. Not too much though, I don't want to overdo it. So I'm kind of keeping them clustered on one, adding a couple in the other area, and I'm taking that same like white, yellowish color, and I just wanted to add a couple little more cloud details in the background, just because I felt like it was needing a little something right back there. You can do it if you want to. If you don't want to do it, you do your own thing. If you want to do different shaped clouds, you do whatever you want. You do whatever you feel like in your own little painting. And now I'm realizing that I want just a little extra contrast on those trees back there, taking that same detail brush, taking a lighter green, and starting to add tiny little details, just like I did on the bushes in the front. I'm looking for the places in my painting where I can just push it a little more, just really bring it to life a little bit extra, whether that's a couple more little details, whether that's adding a little more contrast, whether that's putting in an extra cloud or two, you know, and it's up to my own discretion. There's no right or wrong answer for what to do on these final stages of your painting. Just feel it out. Look at what your painting looks like and kind of go for whatever you feel like it still needs. And that's our painting. You don't want to lose it again. I'm not like them. that's our little walkthrough for this guy. I'm hoping to get back to video making, maybe not as regular as normal, maybe every 2 weeks. For all my Patreon folks out there, the full-length version of this walkthrough is gonna be up on there for all my $5 donators, and I'm gonna be back in small amounts while still taking care of myself. I'll see you guys in the next video.